she said. Don't ruin this. But it was already too late. The way she looked at me, that slow, careful kind of look that lingered just a second too long, had already done it. I wasn't supposed to notice her like that. She was older, composed, the kind of woman who made silence feel like something sacred instead of awkward. Everyone else spoke softer around her. But I didn't. I couldn't. There was something magnetic in the way she carried herself, like she'd survived too much, but refused to let it show. That evening, we were the last two left in the studio. The others had gone home hours ago, leaving behind half-empty cups of coffee and the faint hum of a flickering light. She sat at the edge of the table, reviewing notes, the pencil moving lightly between her fingers. I tried to look busy, typing, deleting, retyping, but my focus kept drifting back to her. Her perfume was faint, something like cedar and rain. The kind that lingered even after she left the room. When she looked up, I pretended not to notice, but her gaze held me there anyway, calm, steady, unflinching. You don't have to stay, she said, voice low and deliberate. I know. I didn't move. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't tell me to go again. Instead, she went back to her notes, the corner of her mouth curving, not quite a smile, more like a thought she was trying to hide. Minutes passed in the kind of quiet that isn't really quiet, the kind where every sound feels sharper. The scratch of her pencil. The hum of the heater. The soft brush of her sleeve against the table as she leaned closer to read. When she reached for a paper, her hand brushed mine. It wasn't planned. Just a fraction of contact. But everything inside me stopped. She didn't pull away immediately. Her fingers froze against mine, soft, cool, before she cleared her throat and withdrew. Sorry. It's fine, I said, but my voice betrayed me, a shade too low, too rough. She looked at me then, properly looked. And I realized I'd never really seen her eyes before. They were the kind that seemed to hold too much, tiredness, restraint, 1,000 things unsaid. I think you should go, she murmured finally, but it didn't sound like an order. I leaned back, but I didn't move toward the door. You don't really want me to. Her breath caught, the faintest sound, almost like a laugh but not quite. You don't know what I want. Maybe not, I said, but I know what I shouldn't. That earned me a glance sharp enough to end the conversation. She gathered her papers, stood, and crossed to the window. The streetlight outside painted her in soft gold. She looked smaller there, framed by the glass, not fragile, but human. You're too young to understand the difference between wanting something and being ready for it, she said quietly. Maybe, I said, standing too. But that doesn't stop me from wanting it. The air between us tightened. For a second, I thought she might close the distance. Instead, she turned, deliberate, steady, and said, almost to herself, Don't ruin this. I should have walked out. I almost did. But then she looked at me again, and something shifted in the way she breathed, as if she just realized how close we really were. Before I could say another word, a sound broke through the quiet, the door handle clicking. She froze. Someone was outside. And suddenly, the space between us felt dangerously alive. The door didn't open. Whoever was on the other side hesitated, then left. The sound of retreating footsteps filled the silence that followed, heavier than the quiet itself. She didn't turn around. Her hand stayed on the edge of the desk, fingers white against the dark wood. I could see her breathing, slow, steady, deliberate. Like she was counting seconds before she spoke again. When she finally did, her voice was barely above a whisper. You shouldn't stay this late anymore. I wasn't planning to, I said. A lie. She turned to face me, the faintest hint of a smile ghosting her lips, not out of amusement, but recognition. You really don't know when to listen, do you? I shrugged. Maybe I just like being around you. Her expression shifted. Something flickered, maybe irritation, maybe something softer. She crossed her arms, leaned back against the table. The lamplight caught in her hair, a few loose strands falling forward. Don't say things like that, she said quietly. You'll make things complicated. Already feels complicated. That earned me a short exhale, part sigh, part laugh. She looked away, toward the rain still streaking down the window. I watched her, trying to understand the invisible weight she carried. There was a ring mark on her finger, faint, almost gone, but still there. The kind that didn't fade as easily as it looked. Was it recent? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes met mine, sharp, defensive. What? The ring. I just noticed. She didn't answer right away. Her jaw tightened. Then, with a small nod, she said, 3 years. And no, it's not recent. But it still feels like it. There was no bitterness in her tone. Just something hollow, like a truth she'd learned to live with. I'm sorry, I said softly. Don't be. She straightened her posture. We were different people. He wanted something simple. I wanted to feel seen. That word, seen, lingered between us. She glanced at the time, then began gathering her papers. You should go. But I didn't move. Not yet. When she brushed past me to reach for her coat, her shoulder grazed mine, soft fabric against skin. She paused, just for a second, before stepping away. Sorry, she murmured again, her voice quieter this time. It's fine, I said. You keep saying that like you mean it. That made her stop. She turned back to me, eyes narrowing just slightly. You really shouldn't look at me that way. How am I looking at you? Like you're not afraid of what it would mean. Her breath caught on that last word, mean, and for a moment, the air between us thickened, electric, impossible to ignore. She hesitated, then reached for the door. Good night, she said, her voice steady again. But as she opened it, her fingers brushed mine, not by mistake this time. Just a single, brief touch. Her eyes met mine, softer now. Don't make me regret letting you stay, she whispered. Then she left, leaving behind only the scent of rain and cedar, and a silence that felt anything but empty. That was the night I realized I wasn't imagining it. Whatever this was, it had already begun. The next few days blurred into something half normal, half restless. We kept finding reasons to talk, small things that didn't matter. A misplaced file, a question about a project, an unnecessary update. Every conversation ended the same way, too close, too quiet. It was late again when it happened. The office lights dimmed automatically after 9, leaving only the desk lamps burning. She was standing by the whiteboard, marking something with her usual precision. I should have left already, but I didn't. You work too much, I said, trying to sound casual. She didn't look up. Maybe I like being busy. You like being distracted, I said before thinking. That made her pause. She turned, pen still in hand. And what would you know about that? I swallowed. Maybe I recognize it. Her eyes softened, not kind, just understanding. You really shouldn't try to figure me out. Too late. She sighed, dropped the pen onto the desk. You make things harder than they need to be. Maybe they're supposed to be. Silence. She moved closer, slow, deliberate. The sound of her heels on the tile echoed in the empty room. The distance between us closed, not all the way, but close enough that I could smell her perfume again, faint and familiar. I told you before, she said, voice low. Don't ruin this. I'm not trying to. Then what are you doing? I didn't have an answer. Not one that would make sense. She looked at me, waiting. Then something changed in her expression, the kind of shift that comes right before someone gives in. Her hand brushed mine as she reached for the files beside me, lingering longer than it should have. My pulse jumped. She didn't move her hand right away. Then a phone buzzed. We both froze. The sound felt too loud in the small room. She pulled back quickly, checking her phone. The name flashing on the screen made her go still. She turned it face down without answering. Someone important? I asked quietly. She didn't look at me. No. Just someone who used to be. I wanted to ask more, but she was already moving away, pacing, tension tightening her shoulders. This, she said, cutting herself off. If anyone saw us like this, they won't. That's not the point. She turned sharply toward me. You don't get what this would look like. Her words hit harder than I expected. Because she was right, she had more to lose. I took a step closer anyway. Maybe I don't care how it looks. She looked up then, and for a moment, her breath caught. I could see it, the hesitation, the want, the fear. Her eyes flicked down to my mouth, then back up. The space between us shrank again, her body angled toward mine. My hand lifted slightly, not to touch, just to reach. Her lips parted, but she didn't move. The air between us pulsed silent, alive. Then she whispered, "Don't." I stopped, but neither of us stepped back. We just stood there, breath against breath, pretending it wasn't happening. And somehow, in that stillness, we were closer than if we'd actually touched. The night it finally broke wasn't supposed to be different from any other. She'd stayed late again, a habit that had become ours, even when neither of us admitted it. The storm outside rattled the windows, thunder rumbling low and distant. I found her by the window, arms folded, watching the rain. Her reflection was faint in the glass, quiet, still, and unreadable. "You shouldn't keep doing this," she said softly, not turning. "Doing what?" "Staying. Waiting. You sound like you want me to stop." She hesitated, then finally looked over her shoulder. "Maybe I do. But you don't mean that." Her jaw tightened. "You think you know me so well." "I don't," I said. "I just know how it feels when you walk into a room." Her breath caught, a faint sound under the thunder. She turned fully now, facing me. The distance between us was small, too small to ignore. "That's not fair," she said. "Neither is this," I replied, stepping closer. Her eyes flickered, uncertain, like she was weighing something invisible. "You shouldn't say things you can't take back." "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. The silence after that was heavy, electric. I could hear the rain against the glass, her shallow breathing, the soft rustle of her blouse as she shifted. When I reached up, my hand moved before thought caught up, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. She didn't pull away. Her eyes closed for half a second, a small surrender. Her skin was warm beneath my fingertips. Too real. Too close. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because you won't." Her eyes opened, sharp, searching. And for the first time, I saw it, the conflict she tried to bury. It wasn't just about right or wrong. It was about wanting something she thought she'd stopped deserving. "I shouldn't feel this," she said. "But you do." Her hands clenched at her sides. "You don't understand what people will say. What they'll think of me. I don't care what they think." "Then you're a fool," she said, her voice trembling. "Because I care." The storm outside grew louder, wind shaking the windowpane. She took a shaky breath, stepping closer, close enough that her perfume filled the air between us, earthy and soft. "I can't let this happen," she murmured. "Then why are you still here?" Her lips parted, but no words came. I could see the battle written in every inch of her face, restraint, longing, fear. My hand was still near her cheek. She leaned into it just barely, almost imperceptibly. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Her breath brushed against my neck as she whispered, "You don't know what you're doing to me." "Maybe I do," I said, voice low, unsteady. Her gaze dropped to my mouth, then lifted again, eyes shining with something that looked like surrender. And just as the space between us vanished, just as her hand found mine, the lights flickered and went out. We stood there in the dark, hearts pounding, one breath away from something neither of us could undo. When the power came back on, everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a damp quiet that pressed against the windows. She was still standing close, her face half lit by the returning light. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something, then she didn't. She stepped back first. Just one careful step, like it might undo what almost happened. "I can't," she began, but the sound of her phone vibrating cut through the room again. Same name. Same hesitation. This time, she didn't silence it. She answered. Her voice dropped, soft and controlled, but the tremor was there. Yes. I'm still here. No, I'm fine. I told you it's over. Please stop calling me like this. A pause. Her eyes flicked to me, then away. Yes, she said quietly. I'm not alone. Something in the tone, calm, measured, final, made my chest tighten. She hung up and set the phone face down on the table. Her hand was trembling. She didn't try to hide it. Was that? I started, but stopped when she looked at me. It was my husband. I blinked. You told me. I told you we weren't together, she said. And that's true. But separation isn't the same as being free. The word free landed between us like a confession. I didn't move. Neither did she. The air stretched thin. She rubbed her temples, eyes shut. He doesn't want to let go. And I haven't exactly forced him to. Why? Her eyes opened slowly, tired but honest. Because part of me doesn't know how. I wanted to reach for her, to close the distance, but something in her expression stopped me. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. She walked past me, brushing against my arm, too gently to be accidental. You don't understand what this looks like from the outside. You're 25. You'll move on, find someone your age, someone uncomplicated. Stop saying that like it's supposed to make sense, I said, my voice rising. She froze. I stepped closer. You're the only one who's made sense in months. Her breath hitched. She didn't turn, but I saw her shoulders tense. You shouldn't say things like that. Why? Because you'll believe them? She turned then, quickly, sharply. The movement brought her close enough that the edge of her sleeve brushed against my hand. Her voice dropped. Because I already do. The room went still. Her eyes glistened, raw, alive. You think I don't feel this? I do. Every time I see you, I have to remind myself to breathe. But that's exactly why it can happen. I shook my head. You don't get to decide that for both of us. She took a step back, then forward again, conflicted, breath trembling. If I let this happen, she whispered, I lose everything I've managed to rebuild. And if you don't? I asked. Her silence was the answer. She exhaled shakily, hand hovering in the air as if reaching for me, then stopping. Don't follow me, she said, though her voice broke halfway through. She turned and walked toward the door, but before she left, she paused, fingers tightening around the handle. Without looking back, she said, Tomorrow. Same time. And then she was gone, leaving me in the echo of everything she didn't say. It had been weeks since that night, the one that left more silence between us than words ever could. I told myself it was over, that whatever had been building had burned itself out. But then she called. Just once. Just my name. And everything I'd tried to bury came rushing back. When I saw her again, it wasn't in that dimly lit room or beneath some romantic pretense. It was ordinary, late afternoon, soft light spilling through the blinds, her hair slightly messy, her eyes tired but softer than I remembered. She looked real. Human. Beautiful in the kind of way that doesn't ask to be noticed. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she said quietly, You didn't have to come. I know, I said, smiling faintly. That's why I did. She shook her head, trying not to smile. You always find a way to make things complicated. Or maybe you just make them worth it. She looked down, but not to avoid me, more like she was collecting herself. When she met my eyes again, something was different. The fear that used to hide behind her confidence wasn't there anymore. I kept thinking about what you said, she whispered. About pretending to be someone else. I nodded. I've spent half my life doing that, she continued. Trying to be strong, composed, older, wiser. And then you came along and ruined it. I laughed softly. Guess we both ruined something. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away this time. You make me feel seen. That scares me more than anything. I took a step closer, careful, slow, like approaching something fragile and sacred at the same time. You don't have to be scared anymore. She exhaled, the kind of sigh that lets years of weight fall away. You still don't understand, she said, but her voice wasn't sharp. You're young. You'll wake up one day and stop. I said gently and reached out. My fingers brushed hers, hesitant at first. She didn't move. When our hands finally intertwined, it felt like a promise, quiet, steady, honest. We stood there for a while, saying nothing. The world outside went on, faint hum of traffic, the ticking of her clock, the faint scent of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. But inside that small space, everything felt right. When she finally spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. You still want this? I nodded. I never stopped. Her smile was small, fragile, but real. Then don't leave. I didn't. I just pulled her closer, until her head rested against my chest. Her hands slid up my arms and stayed there, holding on, like maybe we'd both found something that made sense. Not perfect, not easy, just real. We stayed that way for a long time, breathing in sync, the light dimming slowly around us. No more pretending. No more hesitation. Just us, flawed, tangled, and finally unafraid. And for the first time, she didn't say, "Don't ruin this." She just whispered, "Stay."